دكتور. طيب بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Engineering Sudan Post-Conflict Reconstruction Lessons from Global Experiences for Sustainable Recovery. دكتور نادر حسنين، دكتور أسامة الحسين. Rebuilding Sudan after conflict involves addressing complex economic, political, and institutional challenges. The ongoing conflict had disastrous consequences, displacing over 14 million people, devastating key infrastructure, with catastrophic socioeconomic impacts. Post-conflict reconstruction requires both economic rebuilding and taking stability measures for lasting recovery. This chapter explores policies for Sudan recovery, focusing on infrastructure, reconstruction, community participation, management practices, and finance models, drawing on international experience. PCR rebuilds the state conflict by restoring physical infrastructure, institutions, economy, social recovery, and reconciliation. The objective is to lay foundation for sustainable peace and long-term stability, not just return to pre-war status. We need to do it better. These are the main components of PCR: mechanisms, stages, sustainability, finances. There are several keys theories for PCR: peace building theory, state building theory, social reconstruction theory, and several approaches: top-down, bottom-up, or hybrid. For Sudan recovery, due to its fractured political status and social fabric, a hybrid approach might be the best approach now available. Reconstruction goes beyond infrastructure to address conflict root causes to ensure lasting peace. Recovery must be local, on to build self-sustainability. We need to balance immediate relief with long-term aims. International support is vital initially, but focus should be building local capacity and reducing aid dependency. Sustainable peace depends on inclusive political, social, backed by strong governments and justice. PCR integrates engineering with social and economic recovery. Sustainable urbanization requires resilient infrastructure and community involvement, most important. And the starting point is damage assessment. We need to assess the damage in all these sectors shown on the right. Why? To prioritize recovery, allocate resources efficiently, and support long-term resilience. PCR faces collapsed infrastructure, political institutions, social fragmentation. It needs physical rebuilding and addressing conflict roots. Temporary stability for relief must lead to lasting solutions: poverty reduction, reduction of unemployment, and facing corruption. Comprehensive recovery requires rebuilding infrastructure, it requires social cohesion, and building the economy. There is a major role to be played by engineering. Urban renewal in conflict zones should focus on reconciliation, not just physical reconstruction. It needs to involve marginalized communities. It needs to provide livelihoods. It has to provide trauma counseling, as well as short-term measures: shelter, core services, and small-scale industrialization. The foundation for long-term recovery: sustainable economic development, self-capacity, and self-reliance. For sustainable reconstruction, we need to resource conservation, we need to use green energy, green building, and community participations. Engineers must collaborate with everyone to ensure sustainability. Project management in conflict zones has different requirements. It requires rapid results, it requires adaptability, it requires coordination under constraints, security risk, weak institutions. We need to use simplified tools under the circumstances, but there are key factors for success. First of all, we have to manage expectations, ensure knowledge transfer. We need to be flexible, using experienced staff, and short-term gain for long-term recovery. We studied 10 cases for post-conflict reconstruction. As much as we like to follow the German or the Japanese successes, but they are not relevant to the Sudanese context, because countries with similar challenges to Sudan, starting from Sierra Leone, the 4 R's approach: repatriation, reintegration, rehabilitation, reconstruction, They had their successes, but eventually they had their challenges caught up, youth disillusionment, corruption. South Sudan experienced political fragmentation, political instability, ethnic rivalries, a more bad influence, oil dependency, and dependency on foreign aid. All these lessons we need to learn from it. Rwanda is a model for post-conflict reconstruction, unity and development models. Centralized authority, economic recovery via PPPs, social cohesion community approaches. Okay, there is some challenges, political freedom, compromise for efficiency, but there are lots of lessons for Sudan. Lebanon is a very interesting approach. It was based on private sector, Al-Hariri and Solidaire experience. They had huge private sector successes, but they ignored social justice and failed with political reforms and inclusion. Iraq and Afghanistan, they spent billions of dollars with limited success because of sectarian violence, because of poor planning, because of cultural mismatch. Bosnia had its success and failures, and there are lessons to be drawn there. Gaza reconstruction was spearheaded by the Arab institutions, but again failed because of local decision, political resolution. Syria, it's important to reach political consensus before starting reconstruction. South Africa, another success for people-centered planning. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission, it's an important lesson for Sudan. This is a typical program for reconstruction of Iraq. Public works, livelihoods, supporting local governments, social cohesion. We try to develop a Sudanese state strategies based on above. It's a challenging task. It needs a sequential approach. We need to balance short-term relief leading to sustainable development. There are multi-stakeholder process. We need to work on community empowerment. We need to work on transparency, accountability, to build trust and sustainability. We have to capacity build and local transfer, concentrate on that. We need to get locals involved and be flexible to adapt to evolving circumstances. There are several short-term measures: exchange rate control, inflation management, economic diversification, privatization. Lessons from post-conflict economies, adaptability, and just resource use. The key challenges: political instability, weak institutions, ongoing security threats, stretched finances. We need improved governments, guaranteed security. We need reconstruction funds. But Sudan can count on foreign aid. It can count on Sudan-rich natural resources. As Prof. Alam said, we have a young population ready to take initiative. We can coordinate with neighboring nations, particularly landlocked, to resolve their issues. We need to depend on local ownership and coordination. There are early recovery priorities. There are long-term success factors. First of all, we have to start by developing a national reconstruction plans, a comprehensive, inclusive plan covering economic, political, social, and institutional development. It has to emphasize coordination, transparency, and climate adaptability. Financing, we can secure financing via debt relief, FDI, diaspora, private sector. We have to use innovative mechanisms, launch International Sudan PCR Forum. We have to work on security and reconciliation, phases of reconstruction, emergency, transition, reconstruction. We need institutional reform, economic recovery, social and humanitarian needs. We need to work on our regional cooperation, justice and reintegration, and national unity. The main stakeholders start with local communities, local governments, private sector, national government, as well as external actors. Financing mechanism, grants. I always concentrate on the role of foreign direct investment. We have to provide the right investment because it's essential for rebuilding Sudan. There are some challenges: weak institutions, corruption. We need to balance short-term relief with long-term growth, and we have to provide the right FDI regulation. The pillars of post-conflict reconstruction: security, justice, governments, social and economic welfare. These are the critical infrastructure based on successful cases. The whole of Rwanda's success was built on building the transport infrastructure, water and sanitation, energy supply. Sierra Leone use of alternatives. They use some kind of mini grids, hydro mini grids for building. There is healthcare and education. This is common in all successful PCRs. We need a comprehensive approach, inclusive, participatory, sustainable strategy, prioritizing infrastructure, governance, security, and community empowerment. We notice that the same terms keep repeating themselves. The key lessons: addressing inequalities, national reconciliation, governance reform, local ownership, economic diversification, reintegration, and aligning foreign aid with Sudan long-term vision, strategy for sustainable recovery, empowering local communities, diversification, inequalities, and again, political reconciliation. A transparent, inclusive approach will help Sudan heal, rebuild, and create peaceful, prosperous future through unity and collaboration. Sorry if I took so more time.
شكرا جزيلا. بنحلم بفضاء أوسع، بنحلم بزمن أجمل، بلاد ميلاد، بلاد ميلاد. بنحلم بفضاء أوسع، بنحلم بزمن أجمل، بلاد ميلاد، بلاد ممتد لحد حدود